Hello everybody and welcome to the reboot of What If Midoriya Had a Twin Sister, Part 1 to be specific. I do want to say that if you guys want more of this series, please hit that like button and reach 300 likes. The next part will come out next week. And subscribe if you're new. You can also check out my Discord server, link in the description below if you want to talk to me or other people. Yeah, the video is already very long, which really hurt my voice and took a lot of work, so I don't want to make this intro too long, so enjoy the video. The miracle of life. The one thing that keeps us alive, and that gives our lives a meaning, the creation of more life. 15 years ago, on July 15th, it reared its head. Ah! Screams could be heard throughout the room as the doctor pulled the child out of his mother's womb. After cleaning it up, he handed the baby to the mother. Exhausted after the whole procedure, Inko grabbed the newly born child and cradled him in her arms, trying to get him to stop crying. Shh, shh, she whispered, cradling him back and forth. So, what are we gonna call him? Hisashi, the boy's father, asked, while stroking his wife's hair, an action which the tired mother appreciated as it was calming her down as well. Izuku, Inko stated as she looked longingly at the boy, who was falling asleep in her arms. She could see endless possibilities for the boy. Truly, someone who would accomplish wonders. The newly born baby, having exhausted all his energy coming out of the womb, and was drifting off to sleep to recover it. Izuku Midoriya, the mother repeated, stating the whole name. There's no time to start relaxing, the doctor stated, snapping the mother out of their relaxation. What do you mean? Hisashi asked. His wife had just given birth. It was natural for her to relax and recover. The other one is coming, the doctor answered as he started preparing new instruments. Wait, we're having twins? The father exclaimed, surprised. The procedure was carried out correctly, and a few minutes after Izuku Midoriya was born, Himoto Midoriya joined him in the land of the living. Having to raise two kids would be no easy task. It didn't just require hard work, but also a lot of financial stability. A stability which this family sadly did not have. After discussing the situation with one another, the two parents came to a decision. Hisashi would take a job overseas in order to be able to afford everything the family would need, a plan which ended up working out pretty well. Slowly, time passed. The children grew up, playing with one another and making friends. At age 3, Izuku went to the playground to play. He saw a couple kids, friends really, who were picking on another one. They punched him in the stomach and the kid retreated, wanting to get distance between himself and his assailants. The 3 bullies followed, but little Izuku put himself in the middle of their path. Get out of the way, Deku, the small bully said while making a small but still menacing explosion in his hand. Why are you being so mean? Izuku nervously asked while trembling in fear, tears ready to flow from his face. You're making him cry, Kachan. If you keep on hurting him, then I'll stop you myself, the boy declared, taking a fighting position. He was imitating the heroes he had seen on TV, but his fear was still betraying him, causing him to tremble. Still, the boy stood his ground. You want to pretend to be a hero? The bully asked, a huge grin on his face. No matter what, he was going to get to beat someone up. You don't stand a chance without a quirk, Deku, the boy continued, creating another explosion while at the same time belittling the boy. Izuku still didn't back down, so the bullies charged at him, ready to strike. Bakugo struck at Izuku, pushing him to the ground. Izuku fell on the sand, scraping his elbow, a little blood coming out. The bully then went in for a kick, deciding to ignore the boy from earlier and instead focus on the one who stood up to him. Hey, Izuku! I finished cleaning my toys, so Mom said I could come play, an approaching voice said. A little green-haired girl turned the corner only to see 3 bullies kicking her brother, who was in the fetal position, holding his head with his own hands in order to minimize the damage. There was another kid a couple meters away, but she gave him little attention. "Hey, stop it!" she shouted, catching the attention of the bullies, but they just ignored her and kept kicking. The girl charged at the bullies, running as fast as she could. Once she was close enough, she held her breath for a moment and then blew out, a blaze coming out of her mouth, almost hitting the boys, but definitely scaring them. 2 of them flinched, falling to the ground. Only Bakugo stood his ground. The 2 boys got back up and ran away, frightened. "Whatever, let's get out of here," Bakugo ordered, as if he were in control of the situation. He was just trying to save face. Truthfully, he was frightened of the girl's firepower, a strength that might even match his own. Fighting her alone was not a good idea. Having taken care of the bullies, Himoto walked to her brother's side. He was still in the fetal position, his face covered in snot and tears. "Are you okay, Izuku?" Himoto asked, crouching down to inspect her brother. Izuku took a moment to realize that the bullies were gone. The shock of the situation having passed, he felt a jolt of pain coming from his arm, so he held it. "Yes, thank you," he answered. "Oh, you have a boo-boo," Himoto stated, noticing her brother's pain. "Let's go get Mom to kiss it better," she suggested, offering her brother a smile and a hand to help him up. "Oh, okay," Izuku responded, taking the hand and whipping his face clean with the other. The 2 headed home so that their mother could help Izuku get better. A couple months later, scared for her son since he hadn't manifested a quirk yet, Inko took Izuku to the hospital. He was the only kid in the kindergarten to not show any signs of a quirk. On the opposite side of the spectrum, both Bakugo and Himoto seemed to be the most talented at using theirs. Once they arrived at the hospital, Izuku went through some tests. In the meantime, Himoto, being a curious child, started asking a lot of questions and inspecting the hospital's waiting room. After Izuku finished the tests, the doctor took a minute to go over the results and called the family in. "So, kid, what do you want to be when you grow up?" the doctor asked, trying to make polite conversation while he finished looking over the files. "A hero!" the boy responded with a lot of enthusiasm. "Sorry, kid, not gonna happen," Dr. Ujiko stated. He had seen enough of the test to know that the boy wasn't going to manifest a quirk. He had 2 joints on his pinky toe, after all. Their statement shattered Izuku's whole reality, his hopes, his dreams. They were all just shattered with 5 simple words. He just stared blankly at the 4, processing his new reality. The All Might action figure in his hand just dropping to the ground as his grip was loosened. Seeing that her brother's favorite toy fell on the floor, Himoto got off her seat, grabbed the toy and tried to hand it back to an unresponsive Izuku, but failed. "Sit back down, Himoto," her mother ordered. Turning back to face the doctors, Himoto sat back down, now holding the action figure. "So you really think there's something wrong, then?" Inko asked, concern in her voice. "My records show that you're a 4th generation quirk user. What powers are in the family?" the doctor asked, wanting to give an accurate assessment of the situation. "Me and my husband don't have anything too special," Inko answered. "He can breathe fire and I can levitate small objects towards myself. Himoto can breathe fire like your father, but can also manipulate the flames to some capacity." Little Izuku should have already manifested one of these powers, or a variation of them like Himoto has, but the fact is, he hasn't, the doctor bluntly stated, and after viewing his x-rays, I doubt he will. "But the 2 of them are twins, shouldn't they have the same quirk?" Inko asked, a tad confused. Still, she was trying all she could to logically avoid the current situation, for the sake of her son. "You're thinking of identical twins, ma'am. Your children are fraternal twins, meaning they're as different as 2 normal siblings," the doctor explained. He then proceeded to explain exactly how quirks worked. Defeated and containing tears full of agony, Izuku, along with his family, all returned home. All of Izuku's hopes and dreams had just gone up in smoke in a matter of minutes. What's wrong, Izuku? Himoto asked. Her brother's expression hadn't changed in the last hour since they got home. He was just staring blankly at the wall. There was this sense of dread and hopelessness in the room, a feeling which bothered her. Tears streamed down Izuku's face after hearing the question. I can't become a hero. I can't become a hero because I don't have a quirk. He whispered between sobs. He knew he was worrying Himoto and was trying to contain his tears, but he was failing at that. Who told you that? Himoto asked in a curious tone. All she remembered them telling him was that he was quirkless. No one said anything about not being able to become a hero. Mom? Izuku answered, still sobbing. He was really trying to contain himself, but couldn't do it. Then prove her wrong, she blankly stated after a moment of silence. Train and become a hero, even without a quirk. A bright smile appeared on her face as she tried reassuring her brother. Her best friend and closest ally was hurt, so she did all she could to cheer him up. But there aren't any quirkless heroes, Izuku responded as the tears started stopping. He was finally calming down. He'd already given up. He had done all he could to give up. Without a quirk, he couldn't become a hero. But for some reason, his sister still believed in him. He knew she wouldn't let him wallow in despair, yet still he responded as he did, trying to give up. Then you can be the first one, the naive girl said, the gentle smile strengthening as it was becoming a symbol of hope for the boy she was comforting. But I can't do it alone, Izuku responded again, trying to give up. Not dropping her smile in the slightest, the girl said, Then we'll do it together. Words which once again sparked hope in Izuku's heart. Years passed the two kids by. During this time, Izuku was constantly bullied for being quirkless, but he stood up for himself and at least had some support. He would become a hero and nothing could stop him. At least that's what he would tell himself. Like in life, his confidence had a couple of ups and downs, but Himoto was always there to support him. She played with him, trained with him, and even convinced him to start doing fitness training. He didn't have a quirk, so he'd have to make up for it in other ways. They even practiced some combat every now and then. Still, Midori had one advantage. He admired heroes and studied them. Without realizing it, he developed a very analytical mind. In the present day, the two siblings sat in their classroom at Eldera Junior High, listening to their teacher blab on about something. Izuku was writing down some notes on the fight he saw earlier in the day, and Himoto was staring out the window, thinking about what she'd do after school. She had agreed to get together with some friends to go get something to eat after school. So, as third-year students, it's time to start thinking seriously about your future and what you want to do with your lives. I could pass out some career aptitude tests, but, their teacher said, grabbing onto the tests and throwing them up in the air. Why bother? I know you all want to go to the hero track. The whole class raised their hands in excitement, cheering while using their quirks. They were agreeing with their teacher's assessment. That was the dream job. Of course they'd want to do it. Midori was also joining in, raising one of his hands while continuing to write down some notes about Mount Lady and Camuli Woods. Yes, you all have some very impressive quirks, but no quirk usage allowed at school. Get a hold of yourselves, the teacher reprimanded. He had gotten them all way too excited and now wanted to get them back in their seats. Hey, teach! Don't lump me in with this bunch of losers. I'm the real deal, but most of these guys will be lucky if they end up as sidekicks to some busted D-lister, Bakugo said, a smug tone in his voice, letting out a small chuckle after. Do you think you're better than us, Gatsuki? One of his classmates asked, as all of them started screaming in outrage. Let's go, I'll take you all on, Bakugo said, posing a challenge he knew no one would accept. What an ass, Himoto commented as she directed her attention back towards the window. You say something, you damn salamander? Bakugo asked as the smugness now mixed in with a bit of anger. But the girl did not respond. She knew better. Hey, I'm talking to you, Bakugo said, getting out of his chair and approaching the girl. So what if I did? Himoto asked in a confrontational fashion. Now calm down, you two. Bakugo, return to your seat, the teacher ordered, checking his notes. You do have some pretty impressive results. Maybe you will get into UA. He's going to try for the national school? A boy in the class asked. They only have a 0.2 acceptance rate. It's impossible to get in, another one added. That's exactly why it's the only place worthy of me. After all, I aced all the mock tests. I'm the only one at this school who stands a chance of getting into UA, Bakugo said, standing up and pointing at himself. He was the best. No one could beat him. Oh, Izuku, don't you want to go to UA too? The teacher asked, signaling the boy out. Hearing that question, the class changed their focus from Bakugo over to Izuku and they started laughing about it. How could a quirkless kid get into that school? There is no way they would accept him. This mood shift infuriated both Bakugo and Himoto, but for completely different reasons. What are you all laughing about? She exclaimed, slamming her desk, catching the attention of everyone. She was sick of everyone counting him out just because he didn't have a quirk. That didn't always matter. Believe it or not, he has a way better chance of getting into UA than most of you. He's smarter than most of you and knows his way in a fight. You have no right to laugh at him. He may be smarter, but there's no way UA will accept a quirkless person like him, a boy in the class said. He has a point, one of Himoto's friends, Izuku, said. Yeah, they have rules for that. There's no way to get into the hero course without a quirk, another student added. Actually, they got rid of that rule, Izuku stated, trying to maintain his confidence since most of his class started laughing at him. I couldn't be the first one. Come on, you can't do anything, Bakugo said, slamming his hand into Izuku's desk, creating a small explosion causing him to flinch and fall back. You're just useless and defenseless little Izuku. As he threatened the boy, Bakugo could feel sweat in his back. A warm sensation hitting his skin and an icy glare coming his way. He turned to his side only to see Himoto shooting a death stare at him. Try it. I dare you, she whispered, unsettling the bully. Somehow the girl could be really scary in times like these. Settle down, you two. I'm sure you don't want to get detention again, the teacher said. Both students returned back to their seats and the teacher continued his class. Hey, you want to go have lunch at the Yoshinoya? Yoi asked Himoto. They had agreed to do something after class. Lunch seemed appropriate. After they could go do something else. Sure, Himoto answered, grabbing her backpack. Hey, can I tag along? Izuku asked as she approached the group. Sure, Yoi answered as they all left the classroom. The opportunity having presented itself, Bakugo approached Izuku, putting his hand on his shoulder. Our talk from earlier isn't over, Bakugo said, stopping Izuku from leaving the classroom. Izuku's attention then shifted from the bully to the burning smell that was coming from his shoulder. The bully was making small explosions, creating a small fire on his shoulder, one that would only generate smoke as an intimidation tactic. See, I only have your best interest at heart, so I'll say this. Don't even think about applying to UA, or the consequences will be dire, the bully said, smiling at the boy with an evil-looking grin. Hey, what's this? One of Bakugo's cronies asked, grabbing a notebook from Izuku's hand. Hey, give that back! The boy said, trying to grab it, but he was shoved aside. Whenever he was with Bakugo, he just felt so powerless, like he couldn't do anything. He'd feel frozen like he couldn't do anything. The bullies read the book's title, having a laugh over it. Bakugo, not wanting to humor the boy's dreams, grabbed the book from the crony's hands and used an explosion to blow it up, throwing out the window after. Hey, Himoto, you want to ask Izuku to tag along? Yoi asked before they went down the stairs. Oh yeah, I forgot about him for a moment, the girl said, running back to the classroom. Why are you always asking about him? Do you like him? Izuwari asked once Himoto was out of earshot. What? No! He's just my best friend's brother. They're close. I thought you'd like to have him tag along, Yoi responded, blushing slightly, embarrassed by the question. Come on, be honest, you can tell me, Izuwari said. No, I can't. You are horrible at keeping secrets, Yoi said. If you really want a quirk, here's my advice, Baku said as he started to exit the classroom. Take a swan dive off the roof and pray that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life. Himoto then walked into the classroom, slowing down her pace when she realized what was likely happening. Bye, guardian angel, Baku said, passing her on his way out. I told you before, you can't always be there to protect him. See you later, you weakling, Himoto said as fury started to sprout from her being. They were good friends when they were kids. Why was Baku always like this? Is everything okay? Himoto asked, worried about what Baku may have done or told her brother. I'm fine, Izuku said in a sad tone. Something was up. You sure? Himoto asked. If he denied it again, then she knew not to push it. All he needed was time. Yeah, Izuku answered, starting to exit the classroom himself, with Himoto joining him on his way out. So, bro, do you want to maybe, I don't know, come to the Yoshinoya with me and my friends? She asked, extending her invitation. It was something that might cheer him up. No thanks, I'm just going to go home and take some notes on the fight from earlier, Izuku said as they started walking through the hallway. You sure you don't want to join us? Himoto asked. This might get him to get his mind off things. I'm sure, Izuku reassured her. Okay, bro, Himoto said, a bit of sadness evident in her tone. Sadness that vanished as she continued. But once you get home, don't forget to do 30 push-ups. 30? Izuku asked, surprised. But the routine only dictates 20. Yeah, but you lost to me yesterday, so this is your punishment, the girl said, smiling at him. Alright, Izuku responded, feeling slightly better already. Himoto then left Izuku and caught up with her friends. She felt kinda bad leaving him like that, but thought that things would be fine. So is he coming? Yoi asked. Nah, he's just gonna go home, Himoto answered. Let's go then, I'm hungry, Izuwari complained. Feeling sad about his current situation and reevaluating everything once again, Izuku went to fish his notebook from the pond it landed in. He decided to go home. He had someone who believed in him and his dreams. All he had to do was tough it out and he'd get there eventually. Putting up a brave smile, Izuku headed home, taking a shortcut under a bridge. While taking the shortcut, Izuku's fate changed forever. He was attacked by a slimy villain, one that was sure to end his life. Luckily, his favorite hero, All Might, showed up to save the day. After he woke up, Izuku desperately wanted to talk to the hero, but he turned to leave before Izuku could even ask his question. Acting on instinct, Izuku clung to All Might's leg, tagging along with him and accidentally dropping the recently captured villain. Izuku had a disappointing talk with his hero, one that almost got him to end everything, but he had one ray of sunshine left. There was at least one person who wouldn't let him quit. Both the hero and Izuku went their own ways, but ended up meeting again minutes later at a villain attack. The sludge villain from before had taken a captive, and none of the heroes around found themselves able to do anything about it. It was only thanks to Midoriya's actions that All Might was inspired to push past his limits to save the day. He jumped into the scene to save the two boys and blew the villain away with one punch. The incident having been resolved, everyone went their own ways. Izuku, after having gone through the whole ordeal, headed back home, disappointed in himself for only getting in the way. He ran into Bakugo, who told him to piss off, but that was nothing new. The surprising thing was when All Might showed up and offered the boy his power, the quirk known as One for All, an offer which Izuku eagerly accepted. This was his chance to really become a hero. Izuku returned to his regular life for a bit, acting much more cheerful than usual. Something which made Himoto happy. She didn't have to look after him as much, and Bakugo had stopped bullying him as much as well. So that was a plus. 2 days after the villain encounter, Midoriya got a strange message and headed to Dagobah Municipal Beach, where he met up with All Might to start his training. The first thing All Might did once he arrived was task Izuku with moving a refrigerator. After struggling to move the fridge for 10 minutes, Izuku managed to move it 3 meters. "Why are you having me move trash across the beach?" Izuku asked, questioning the situation while taking a small break to catch his breath. "Why, you ask? Because you're not ready for my power," All Might bluntly stated, taking a picture of Midoriya. "But I thought you said I was worthy," Izuku said, not sure about how he should feel about that statement. "I'm talking about your weak body. Sure, you may have been working out for a long time, which does give you a head start, but you need to become a bit stronger before you can take my power," All Might said before explaining in detail how the transfer would more or less work, while also getting into why they were at the beach. Understanding the situation well, Izuku resolved to clean the beach and get himself ready for All Might's power. He was going to be a hero, and the first step to do that was getting into UA High, which is exactly why All Might made the Made-to-Pass American Dream Plan, a schedule made specifically for Izuku to get his body ready for the power before the exam, while also allowing for some time to test out the power and everything. Determined as ever, Izuku started working on it, training like crazy at home, while also going to the beach every few days to keep cleaning it. He was acting pretty suspicious, which raised some red flags for Himoto. Izuku wouldn't answer her questions, so about 2 weeks after the training started, Himoto followed her brother to the beach, where she hid behind some rubble while observing what Midoriya was doing with a stranger. Knowing her brother wasn't anything shady. "Holy crap, it's All Might!" she exclaimed after seeing the shriveled husk transform into the buff hero, an action which got the attention of both All Might and her brother. "Hello there, young lady," All Might said after holding up the armoire she was hiding behind. "Himoto? What are you doing here?" Izuku asked, seeing his sister there. There was no reason for him to be here on a day off from school, especially not so early in the morning. "Following you," Himoto answered. "You've been acting weird the last couple weeks. I need to know what was going on. I was worried. But to be honest, I didn't expect you to be training with freaking All Might! Or I guess an All Might imposter? Well, with whatever this guy is." Izuku's gaze shifted from his sister to the hero. All Might felt the question in his gaze and said, "Fine, kid. You can tell her. I suppose saying your sister should be fine." Hearing that, Izuku took it as permission to finally tell his sister what was going on. He didn't like keeping secrets from her, and this one was a big one. He felt so relieved after telling her. The story lit a flame under Himoto. She had always been in Izuku's corner and wanted to see him succeed. Now, he seemed more confident in himself than before, so that was a plus, even though the events that led to it seemed slightly convenient and contrived. Still, she wanted to help, so she offered it up. Izuku was happy to accept it. They had always worked, fought, and trained together, so for him, it wasn't new. All Might took it under consideration for a moment, but knowing that his chosen successor wanted to, he decided to accept the girl's offer, so he adjusted the plans. Months passed them by. During this time, the two siblings cleaned the beach together. Both of them trained to strengthen their bodies for the exams. Every now and then, the two would spar with one another more seriously than ever before. All Might would watch some of these matches and give both of them feedback on the fighting, an experience which helped them develop proper tactics. Especially Himoto, who was learning how to use her quirk more proficiently in a fight than ever before. Although they were both developing some strange habits from fighting only with each other. On November 13th, about 7 months after they started their training, the siblings finished cleaning the beach. They were exhausted, and rightfully so. The last day of cleaning was like a sprint at the end of a marathon. "Holy crap! You finished already?" I thought it would take you at least another week, All Might said after arriving at the beach. He had been made late by a couple villain encounters on the way. Well, I'm sure I was the deciding factor, Himoto smugly said while drinking from a water bottle. After all, 2 people are going to clean something quicker than just one. Yes, I think Izuku would have barely finished in time for the entrance exam, All Might responded, turning into his buff form. Now, Izuku Midoriya, it's time for your reward. Izuku got up from the ground where he was catching his breath and stared at All Might, a look full of determination on his face as he looked at his favorite hero grab a piece of his own hair and extend it to him. He had worked hard for this and now he was going to receive it. This was step 0 on his path. Eat this, All Might said, stunning both Izuku and Himoto. Seeing their confused expressions, All Might explained how the transferring process works. Having heard all he'd need, Midoriya took the hair and ate it. Great. For now, return home and rest. You've earned it, All Might said after seeing his successor eat the hair. Next time, we'll be meeting at a different place. I'll let you know where. Oh, and both of you, prepare for a brawl. All parties involved then left the area, going their different ways. The 2 siblings returned home to rest while All Might went on patrol. 3 days after having the quirk passed down to him, the 2 siblings met All Might at a small tea shop close to UA High. They sat down and ordered something while they waited, since All Might was usually late. 10 minutes after they arrived, All Might showed up in his weakened state, handing both of them some passes. They paid their tab and they followed All Might. Where are we going? Himoto asked, both skeptic and curious. It's a surprise, All Might answered, creating more intrigue in the 2 kids following him. After a few minutes of walking, they passed through the gates of UA and kept walking until they reached one of the school's gyms, where someone was waiting. Who's that? Midoriya asked, curious as ever. They were at UA, so everyone there were heroes, right? But he didn't recognize the old lady. Well, young Midoriya, this is Recovery Girl. While testing your new power, things may get a bit out of hand, so I asked her to help. I had to call in a couple favors just to get some time in the UA gym at all. You can practice all you want without worrying here, All Might answered. Now let's get started. He went to a storage area where he grabbed a mannequin and a couple other supplies and brought them out, placing the mannequin in the middle of the gym. See that mannequin? He asked Midoriya. I want you to unleash one for all at it. Unleash all your power at it. It's time to give you a taste of the power you now hold. Hearing the request, Midoriya nodded and approached the mannequin. Is he going to be alright? Himoto asked, concerned. He's had the quirk for a couple days, but he said he doesn't feel any different. He doesn't even know how to activate it. Just clench your butt cheeks, kid, and feel yourself unleashing the power. Picture a dam opening up, All Might suggested after hearing the sister's concerns. Izuku stood there for a moment, looking at his hand, contemplating the situation. It had been a rough journey up until this point, but he was still determined to continue on the path he was. He clenched his fist, and with the words of his mentor ringing in his head, he punched the mannequin full force, sending it flying against the wall. The impact was so strong that a gust of wind flew through the room. Seeing such a huge display of power from someone that couldn't stand up for himself most of the time surprised Himoto. It was so surprising made her jaw drop. Ah! Izuku screamed, pain overcoming his arm as he realized what was happening. There was no adrenaline to override the pain, so the pain hit him almost instantly. What happened? What's wrong? Himoto asked, rushing to her brother's side to check if everything was alright. Don't worry, dearie. This is why I'm here, Recovery Girl said, approaching the boy and giving him a kiss on the arm. Almost instantly, the arm started healing, surprising both Midoriya and Himoto. What did you do? Izuku asked, surprised at how well that worked. He was testing his arm, moving it around, but he felt no pain anymore. Suddenly, a wave of tiredness washed over Izuku's body. "I simply used my quirk on you," Recovery Girl explained. "It enhances the way your body heals, using your own energy and stamina and converting it to healing power. But careful, if you overdo it, your stamina will be shot and you'll die regardless. Here, have some gummies." 2 more months passed, time which the siblings spent training further. Their normal regimen of training had increased at home, and they had even started studying more for the UA entrance exam. Every few days, they'd go to UA to continue their training, but they'd also spar at home a bit. It was only while at UA that Izuku was allowed to use One for All. He had a couple fights with Himoto there, where they both used their quirks. Of course, he'd hold back as to not kill her. This method of training continued for quite some time, but on January 10th, after sustaining a particularly heavy injury, Recovery Girl had had enough. "I can't keep doing this all night," she stated. "Once was fine and I've kept doing it out of respect for you, but I can't keep watching. I can't watch this boy continue to destroy his body in order to learn how to use that power any longer. There has to be another way for him to progress." Izuku had to be bandaged up, so he was sent home. On the way home, many questions went through Izuku's head. What was he going to tell his mother? How could he get a better handle on One for All? What could he do? "Is everything alright?" Himoto asked, seeing her brother mumble uncontrollably to himself. He seemed to be really stuck with something. "Yeah," Izuku answered, not knowing exactly how to put it. "It's just my quirk. Well, how exactly do you use your quirk?" It wasn't the most eloquent way to put what he wanted to ask, but it got the point across. "Well, that's a tough question to answer," she said, pondering the question. "It's something automatic. You don't think about it too much, you just do it. It's like a reflex. The thing is, when I watch you do it, I feel like you're turning a switch, turning it on and off. With my fire, if I concentrate on it, then I can make it more powerful. The thing is, it hurts when I do it that way. I hold the candle too close to myself and end up getting burnt. The best way is to just let the energy flow through me. I don't know if I got that right, but I do hope it helps. Generating the flames and controlling them are also 2 different things." "I think it does. Thank you," Izuku replied as he started to ponder the implications again. Once they got home, the 2 siblings gave an excuse of how Midoriya fell down and hurt himself. Luckily, someone was around to give some first aid, but he was fine. Their mother seemed to believe them. All she did was look Izuku's arm over once more before letting them off the hook. Izuku went into his room and grabbed a notebook. What Himoto said, it gave him a great idea on how to use his quirk. He devised a new technique, one which he'd practice until the entrance exam, learning how to master the technique he had dubbed full cowling. After months of training and preparing, the day they had been waiting for finally arrived. It was time to participate in the UA entrance exam. Both Himoto and Izuku got up bright and early. They stretched a bit, had breakfast, and then they left the house, heading to UA High once again. They arrived at the gates of UA, a place they had been to many times over the last few months. But this time the sensation was different. They stood there for a moment, contemplating every step of the path that took them there. They then walked through the gates, going over the notes for the written exam. While walking, Bago passed them by, bumping into Izuku. "Watch where you're going, you damn nerd!" he screamed before he stopped paying attention to them. He had to worry about the exam. He couldn't focus on a weakling and his guardian angel. "Have you noticed that Kachan has been less aggressive towards you lately?" Himoto asked Izuku. "Do you think it's because he was focusing on the entrance exam?" "Maybe, although it could also be because he feels like he owes me for saving him from the sludge villain. Who knows?" Izuku answered. "But you failed to save him. All Might had to step in," Himoto corrected. After going through the written portion of the exam, they entered the main hall where President Mike gave his opening speech, explaining how the practical exam was gonna go. "Good luck, sis," Midoriya wished as they had to split paths. Izuku had been assigned to Battle Center B and Himoto to C, so they wouldn't be able to help each other out. Wishing each other luck was all they could do. Do your best, Izuku. Let's win this! Himoto cheered, raising her fist towards Izuku. Yeah, Izuku chimed in, bumping her fist. Having changed into his tracksuit for better mobility and already being at Battle Center B, Izuku started stretching, properly preparing for the exam. There was only one thing on his mind. There wasn't any time for distractions. He had to pass the exam. Are you ready? President Mike shouted, catching everyone's attention. Then go! There are no countdowns in real battle. The exercise started, so Izuku activated One for All, full cowling at 5%. Spraying the energy equally throughout his body, he rushed into the battlefield, looking for opponents. After less than 10 seconds of searching, he found a 1-point villain, so he rushed at it, destroying the thing with one well-placed kick to the neck. His first opponent down, Midoriya continued on his path. He looked at his surroundings. There were too many people in the beginner area, so he'd have to go deeper. He ran deeper into the battle center, finding a bunch of different villains. He smashed a 3-point villain in 3 hits, moving on to a 2-pointer. After that one was dealt with, he saw another examinee, one who was overwhelmed by over 5 villains that were attacking him. Izuku charged at them, kicking one away and smashing another, focusing his attention on a third before fully destroying the first. He had alleviated a bit of the stress from the other examinee, so using his power he managed to destroy the other 2. While Izuku helped the other boy, in Battle Center C, Himoto rushed at a robot, holding her breath for a moment before unleashing the flames. The fire blinded the robot for a moment, an opportunity which she used to go in and break its cables, moving the fire at another robot, melting its legs with the heat. She then rushed at the now immobilized robot, and deactivated it before it could attack with its missiles. What would Izuku do? She wondered to herself as more robots approached her. Trying to think like her brother, she analyzed her opponent's movements, letting them get in each other's way. She tricked a 1-pointer to crash into a 3-pointer, before welding them together and disabling both. In a short amount of time, she had already accumulated 17 points. Both siblings used their time wisely. They defeated foe after foe, racking up a ton of points, although Izuku was also focused on helping out other examinees that were in danger, which caused him not to gain as many points as Himoto. 8 minutes after the exercise began, an obstacle worth 0 points was released into the battlefield in order to test the students' mettle. Most students ran away in fear from the new enemy that wasn't worth anything. On her end, Himoto just ignored it and continued fighting a couple villains, racking up some more points. On his end, Izuku finished taking down a 3-point villain. He was about to move on to another opponent, but before he could, he heard a loud scream. Ah! Acting on pure instinct, Izuku rushed to the origin of the scream. He was the only one running towards the obstacle, whereas everyone else was just running away. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just running. One thought rushed into his head. What would Himoto do? There was too much adrenaline going through his head. He couldn't think clearly. She beat him to a pulp, he answered, charging One for All in his legs to a higher extent. The choice he made wasn't smart, but it was the only one he could come up with at the time. It occurred to him that he could have lifted the rubble from the girl and carried her to safety, but he'd already destroyed his legs. It was too late for that now. He wound up his arm, focusing a lot of energy on it. He flew closer to the robot at high speeds. Once he was at an impact point, he hit the robot with full force, smashing it apart and forcing the debris from it to fall back. I did it, he thought for a moment. He had achieved victory, but that moment was short-lived. He had gotten rid of most of his kinetic energy, and now gravity had taken over. He was falling fast and didn't know what to do. He only had to survive. No matter how badly he got hurt, Recovery Girl could still heal him. As he fell, he came up with a strategy to survive. All he had to do was hit the ground with One for All at his moment of impact. Sure, it would destroy his last working limb, but he'd get rid of all his energy, effectively saving him from death. He was going down, his speed only accelerating. Still, Moments before he could set his plan into motion, he felt a slap in his face and suddenly he was floating, only a meter between him and the ground. The girl he had saved just a moment ago had now saved him. Release, the girl said, struggling to put her hands together. Gravity's effect returned and Midori hit the ground. Luckily, it wasn't so hard. Are you okay? He asked, looking at the girl. Before she could answer, she turned around, emptying her guts. She seemed hurt, so he was only making sure. Fine, I only twisted my ankle, she answered, a nauseated look on her face. But you should worry more about yourself. Look at your arms and legs. Don't worry, I'll be fine, Izuku reassured, giving a small, gentle smile. Sure, he was in pain, but thanks to the rush of adrenaline, he could barely feel it. Seconds later, the exam ended and thus, Recovery Girl entered the scene, healing those who needed it. I can't believe you did this again, she whispered to herself as she walked towards Izuku. But it was to save this girl, so I guess it's fine. Just don't make a habit out of this. She kissed Izuku's arm and within seconds his body healed completely, leaving him extremely tired as a result. The exam's over, everyone who participated in them headed home. Over the next week, Izuku and Himoto participated in 2 other entrance exams. Just in case they failed, they needed some backup options. A week after the UA entrance exam, 2 letters containing the results arrived at the Midoriya household. Inko came rushing into the living room, holding the letters. They're here! She announced, interrupting her children as they were playing Mario Kart together. The 2 siblings eagerly grabbed the letters and sorted them out with the rest. They opened the letters. Both siblings managed to get into both their backups, those being Isamu Academy and Seijin High School. But the moment of truth had arrived. They both opened their letter from UA, only to find a holodisk inside instead of a card or something. So, who goes first? Izuku asked. No, I insist you go first. Without you, I wouldn't have had the chance. You deserve it, Izuku retorted. No, you go first, Himoto exclaimed. The 2 got into a bit of a skirmish over who would get the news first, fighting over dominance. It was Izuku who emerged victorious, capturing his sister in a headlock. This was the first time he'd actually been able to best her. Fine, I'll go first, Himoto conceded, grabbing a disc and placing it on the desk in front of them. A message popped up with All Might saying, "Congratulations, Izuku Midoriya!" Before rambling on, Izuku stopped paying attention to the recording as soon as he heard his name, giving his sister a look of surprise. Yep, I swapped the discs, she admitted, proud of herself. Congratulations, Izuku Midoriya. You have placed second in the entrance exam. You didn't just accumulate 31 villain points, but also 60 rescue points, a feat that has landed you the second spot. Welcome to this Hero Academia. Hearing those words, Izuku started crying as the top 10 students were shown. You're such a crybaby, Himoto complained, teasing her brother slightly. Memories from their childhood when Izuku would cry came flooding in. Unlike those times, she didn't need to cheer him up. For once, those were tears of joy. Look who's talking, Izuku responded, seeing a couple tears falling from Himoto's face. Himoto shifted her attention from her brother back to the screen. She wanted to see who was in the top 10. She was 7th, having accumulated 56 combat points and 6 rescue points. She was surprised to see her name on the 7th spot, but even more surprised to see how many points Bakugo had, who had gotten the top spot. He had 92 combat points and 0 rescue points. He only beat Izuku by 1 point. Your turn, Izuku said, jabbing Himoto in the shoulder. We already know I got in. Do we really have to? Himoto asked. Yes we do, Izuku answered, activating the disc and placing it on the desk. Just like that, both siblings had taken the first step on a treacherous journey, but one that they'd traveled together. First, I want to apologize for the long and probably crude video. I mean, the editing is going to be hell. I'm recording this in the recording stage, editing comes after. So, yeah. Sorry about that. I mean, I'm saying crude because I just couldn't stand being here for a lot longer, so instead of retaking a bunch of stuff over and over, I just went over it. It ended up so long because the script demanded it. I tend to go quality. I try to go quality over whatever else priority, so I don't make it short on purpose. I don't make it long on purpose. I just say I'm going to get until the end of the entrance exam, and then however long it is, that's how long it turns out. That's kind of the purpose here. So you're probably all wondering, why a reboot? Because there are only 2 parts of the previous version. Well, I won't deny that the previous version was very popular, and honestly, I just considered continuing that one, but narrative purposes demanded the reboot, because I have this whole idea for interconnected universe between my what-ifs, and that means that this one, between the My Hero Academia what-ifs, the Shield Hero ones technically don't count to that, so I had to reboot this one too. Plus, it does give me a bit more freedom in the future, because now I'm going to set up stuff up slightly differently, and as you can see in this one, I think the quality is a lot better. I hope all the art and stuff ended up better too, and yeah, I do hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, again, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, 300 likes for the next video, which I do plan on releasing all parts in December, because I know you guys can hit that. That said, yeah, what else? I had other stuff to say. I don't want to end the video just yet, even though it's 50 minutes long. Over 50 minutes if you count the intro and outro, but the video itself is about 50 minutes. It's the longest what if so far, but it's going to be toppled in the next month because I have a longer script than ever before. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's going to kill my voice, but I'm going to try to tough it out. Yeah. Have a happy December, everyone. I hope everything's going fine with you guys at home and everything. Please stay safe, and until next time, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!